Board of Appeals meeting to order. Please, roll call be.
Here.
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 Here. All right. First order of business tonight would be the acceptance of the minutes from February 22nd, 2022. Everybody had a chance to review? Any comments, suggestions, changes? No? All good? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, next order of business tonight is appeal number, is a public hearing, appeal number 227746, area variance. Tracy Schwinn, trustee, seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R40 zoning district, where 50 feet is required to the front yard property line. The applicant can provide 45 feet for the legalization of an existing deck, thus requesting a variance of 5 feet. The property is located at 18 Brothers Road and is identified as tax grid number 6258-04782421 in the town of Wappinger. Could I have a motion, please, open a public hearing?
Motion open public
Have a
hearing.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Please step to the podium, sir. For the public and the board's sake, just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Tracy Schwinn, 18 Brothers Road.
Gotcha, and just for everybody's know-how, just give us a brief description of what you need and why you need it.
Oh, I gotta tell you again? Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Well,
brief.
yeah, my floating deck in the front of the house, I'm told that it's too close to the property line. So I'm requesting an appeal.
Okay.
That's brief.
I mean, I'm not gonna, I mean, you know, been playing this game long enough, right?
I think we
You guys
covered
come
it,
out, you
right?
saw what it was. It's, you know.
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only question I had was, you know, the road's kind of curving in front of his property. Are we comfortable with the 5 feet? That's like
To the
out?
closest part.
Okay,
So any other side of the house, I'd make them get a survey, because I can't measure, but because I have pavement to measure from, and I just subtract 12 feet, and we use.
okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, you know, that one outside corner wasn't maybe,
Yeah, I looked
A
at
hair
that in
closer.
different spots, and 45 feet
Okay.
is my closest spot.
okay.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. You guys were out to see it. I was out there the other day and saw it. So, pretty straightforward. In my mind, you guys have any other questions or concerns, anything for the applicant? No? Okay. Could I have a motion, anybody in the audience? No? Okay.
Can I just say something quick?
Quick.
I'll make it quick.
Go ahead.
Just want to thank you guys for all that you do, but it still boggles my mind why anybody would even try to give me a hard time, you know, nitpick at something so petty like that. You know, it made so much inconvenience, not even at the cost of the fees, you know, for a resident, a Wappinger's resident, you know. I just can't believe, with all the stuff and development that's out there, I just can't believe anybody would even just try to give me a hard time on that.
Well-
I know you guys don't have extra time,
Well-
but it sure looks like that. But I want to thank you guys for what you do. I got to talk to Al, right? Al's the guy I got to talk to. But lighten up to 50 feet. Why can't it be 30 feet? Then we don't all have to go through all this, but I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
And you were doing so good, too.
Yeah, I know.
I'll feel
Yeah.
better, and hopefully this will be over. But no, seriously, I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people don't speak up, but I just,
If the variance you needed was 5 feet or 30 feet, right, or 2 feet, same process,
right.
right? I know yours happens to be a smaller one,
Yeah.
but I get it, the rules are the rules, and we're ready to vote. Are you ready to?
Oh, I should have waited with that until after you voted.
Yes, this is what I was saying. You were doing so good.
So good. All right, do we close the public hearing?
I'm going to make a motion that we
No,
close.
all right, can I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, could I have a motion, please, to grant or deny the applicant the variance?
I'll make a motion to grant. The benefit cannot be achieved through any other means. It is not an undesirable change to the neighborhood. The request is not substantial. There is no adverse physical or environmental effect. The difficulty is self-created.
All righty. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please, B.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, your variance has been granted. You're free to go.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks. Have a good week.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Your staff is wonderful.
They are. Yes, they are.
All righty, next item on the agenda tonight is appeal number 227747, area variance. Locust Tree Residential Properties LLC landscape business, seeking an area variance, section 24037 and 24030 district regulations in an A1 zoning district where 50 feet to the side property line is required. The applicant can provide 5.1 feet for a pre-existing poly shed, thus requesting a variance of 44.9 feet. Where 50 feet to the rear property line is required, the applicant can provide 7.6 feet for the pre-existing poly shed, thus requesting a variance of 42.4 feet. Where 50 feet to the rear property line is required, the applicant can provide 10 feet to allow for 3 poly storage tanks to remain, thus requesting a variance of 40 feet. The property is located at 80 Airport Drive and is identified as tax grid number 625904 679493 in the town of Wappinger. Could I have a motion, please, to open the public hearing?
Motion open public.
Could I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, so please, your name for the record.
Sure. My name's Troy Wojciechowski. I'm the engineer for the
You're
applicant.
representing, right, you're the engineer for the applicant?
Correct.
Okay.
This site is operated for a landscape business, and the project is currently before the planning board, actually, for an amended site plan approval for some minor improvements for parking and also for screening the operations better from the street that are generally in the back of the building, and trying to really segregate the operations to the rear of the building and all the employee and visitor parking up to the front. So through that process of several meetings, it was uncovered that the 3 poly tanks that store a liquid that they spray on the sand for snow removal was too close to the rear property line. And also they have what we call a hoop house. It's basically a poly fabric that goes over, I think, an aluminum frame that covers their sand that they use for the snow removal process. And that is too close to the side yard and also to the rear yard. As part of the planning board process, in an attempt to keep the poly tanks where they are, which is best for operations, it's really centered with the building and in the back of the building, so it's screened from the street the best. We've proposed to paint the tanks black. 2 of them are yellow, I think one of them is black, and also to install a 6-foot picket fence along basically that whole kind of rear property line to help screen the tanks a bit from the one neighbor that's closest.
What's the height of the tanks?
They're about 10 feet.
Okay, so even with a 6-foot fence, they'd be...
You'll still be able to see
yeah.
a couple feet, yeah. So that's kind of all I have in a nutshell.
The diesel tanks, are they subject to a setback?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, usually at least 5 feet from the property line.
Because I would have assumed that those would have a greater setback than the plastic tanks. It
How
seems
close- How close are they?
they're about the
I
same
think
as
they're
other
on the-
tanks.
just in front of the retaining wall, so that's probably,
So that's over 10 feet,
yeah,
and they're lower, they're
Correct.
down on the ground.
Yep.
yeah.
Kevin, you guys were out there on the weekend. I took a ride by there the other day, see what's going on. You know, I was looking at the, well, I see the survey doesn't, but looking at the GIS, you know, it looked like the poly shed was actually encroaching on your neighbor's property, but according to the survey, you're not.
GIS, the lines are off,
Yeah,
and it can be quite dramatic on some lots,
Yeah.
the way they shift.
gotcha.
Yeah, the neighboring property has a similar hoop shed.
He has
And you were saying that that one did get a variance?
Yes,
Do we know the amount of that variance? Was it about the same?
probably very close to the same, because it's close to the property line.
Because that would have had rear and side yard variances. It looks like it's about the same.
Almost a similar
Yeah, that's very
situation.
similar.
Yeah.
That's at 110 Airport Drive next door.
Gotcha. And the restrictions you were just talking about, that the planning board was considering, you were painting the other yellow tanks black.
Correct.
Gotcha. And a fence.
And a fence, yeah.
The owner had mentioned possibly doing evergreens, I think to shade either the tanks or the shed. Is that being considered still or no?
I don't know at this time if we have proposed tree screening there because of
Okay.
I don't know that they would grow so well because you have pretty thick woods right up to the tanks.
It was mentioned to us. I don't know that you would have enough space. I mean, with only
Yeah,
5
I
feet
think-
between.
That would be so effective. I think the picket fence is a better option that we've come to agree to.
Pretty tight to the property line there too, right? You know, when you put the fence up, I don't know if you have room for
I don't think you would.
pretty tight. Is there any other questions? Applicant? You guys, John, anything?
No, sir.
Yeah, I don't either. Tanks. The total of 3 tanks will remain 3 tanks, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions? No? You guys have anything else? No? Anybody in the audience have any questions, comments? Okay. Could I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the
Have
public
a
hearing.
second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please, B. I'm sorry, no, not roll call. Not a roll call yet, right? No. All right, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, can I have a motion, please, to grant or deny the applicant the variances?
There's 3, so unless you're sure they're all gonna go in the same direction, either do them separately or
Gotcha,
it's up to you.
gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to grant the applicant the variances. Should I read them separately?
Into the
Okay.
record.
Okay, I'll read through them and then I'll go through. 50 feet to the side property line is required. The applicant can provide 5.1 feet for a pre-existing variance of 44.9 feet. Where 50 feet to the rear property line is required, the applicant provides 7.6 feet for a pre-existing poly shed, thus requesting a variance of 42 feet, 42.4 feet. Where 50 feet to the rear property line is requested, the applicant can provide 10 feet to allow for the 3 poly storage tanks to remain, thus requesting a variance of 40 feet. It really can't be achieved by any of the feasible means. You need the poly shed to protect your sand, and you also need the tanks to treat the sand. It's existing, so it's really not an undesirable change to the neighborhood. The request is substantial, however, but not enough to sway my decision. And the request would not have any adverse effects on the difficulty is self-created, however. I would also see restrictions that the planning board would paint, and you would install a 6-foot on 3 sides of the tanks?
This actually extends beyond it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Pretty much along that whole retaining wall.
So I would then include that in our decision as well. All right, so I would then vote to grant based on a decision.
A second.
All right, roll call, please, B.
Yes.
Yes. Your variance has been granted.
Who seconded that?
I'm sorry, Barbara.
Who did the second on
I did.
that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Troy, after B does the magic she does, we'll make sure the planning board and the consultants will get copies of this.
Sure.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
All right, next item up on the agenda tonight would be public hearing, appeal number 227748, area variance. Daniel Coghlan seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R10 zoning district, where 12 feet is required to the side yard property line. The applicant can provide 9.35 feet for the addition of a 24-foot garage and an accessory apartment, thus requesting a variance of 2.65 feet. The property is located at 18 Spring Street and is identified as tax grid number 5956-12-975-522 in the town of Wappinger. Can I have a motion, please, to open the public hearing?
A motion to open the public hearing?
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Name and address, please, for the record.
Anthony Tomaselli, I'm the son-in-law of Dan Coughlin, 18 Spring Street.
Gotcha. Okay, so you guys were out there the other day. I went out there as well and took a look. You have to squeeze a lot in a small space.
Yes.
Let me take a quick look at the plan.
To confirm, the property line is the edge of the driveway,
Yes.
so we're saying, yep, great.
Will I have a chance to look at the plan? I say about property as well.
Well, we'll get through the board and then we'll ask the audience for questions, okay? Yeah, like I said, I took a look at it. I took a look at the plan. I see what you're trying to do. You have quite the undertaking ahead of you. And after being out there and looking at the plan, I really didn't have a whole lot of other questions. I don't know if you guys did. I mean, pretty straightforward. You can see what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it.
We spent quite a bit of time out there looking
Yeah.
at that. Everything was laid out nicely.
I would say, I do think it makes sense to have your garage face that other driveway, just so it's not as frontal looking at the house. I think that's a good decision.
I don't have any other additional questions. You guys have any other additional questions or concerns? We'd ask the audience if they have any additional questions or concerns. Would you please come up and just state your name and address for the record?
Hello, my name is Emily Ellison. I live at 8 Spring Street, but my property actually goes and abuts the existing property. And I have never seen a plan, so I don't know what the plan is. Maybe someone could explain. Can you explain? Okay.
Spring Street, that's the existing house. So we're gonna come off the side, that's the easement that runs to the back property. So we're gonna extend a two-story addition with a garage over here, so our access would be on the shared easement, and our driveway would attach to the easement.
Okay. What are the markings back here? Way in the back?
Septic field.
So the furthest back markings, is that your, right, is that septic or is that your second septic?
No, that's primary.
Primary septic, okay, that's very close to me now. So what you're asking for me, because my property is back here, this is your next door neighbor, right? Okay, so I actually own the property behind them.
Hey, could you show us on the
So-
site plan? It might
Yeah,
be
'cause
They
easier.
have that.
We're really not getting any of what you're saying from up here. So
Oh.
we need to see what you're talking about.
Okay, so how do we do this? You guys tell me.
Good question.
Yeah.
Just
So maybe, Mr. Tomaselli, you can come up
That's
too.
the highlighted property, that's one question, that's that driveway going back, main road here.
Okay, so I live over here.
Okay.
There's one house, two houses.
Hold on a second, I'm just getting over here now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this is my property.
Okay, so you're kind of here.
Yep. Yeah, and there are two houses in between, and then this is my house over here.
Okay.
But my property is an L shape, and it abuts right here, there's a stone wall here. So what I saw is markings way in the back here. The septic is you're saying the septic and everything moves into 2 feet?
No, the septic
has
changes.
nothing to do with this.
Yeah, the variance we're talking about is on this side of the
Oh,
house.
okay.
It's
So-
between, it's right here.
Oh, okay, so this septic is how far away from the wall?
12 feet.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you. I just don't want it any closer.
No, no.
All right, that's all I needed to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, that being said, and you guys are all good, so the audience, we're good there. So can I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing?
Motion closed.
Can I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Could I then please have a motion to deny or grant the applicant the variance?
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance. The requested change will not produce an undesirable change in the neighborhood. There will be no substantial detriment to nearby properties. Most likely will improve them. With the size of the property, the way it's shaped, I don't think there's a feasible other method, another method that's feasible for you to pursue what you're trying to do with the property. What we're looking at is the variance. It's not substantial at all. We're just looking at a side yard variance, and it's very small. So it's, the alleged difficulty is self-created. So I'll make a motion that we grant.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please, B.
Yes.
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 Yes. And your variance has been granted.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Good luck.
Good night. All right.
On that subject, I know we closed the public hearing, but I'm surprised we don't see that, the property that, on just this drawing here.
No, there's a site plan, though.
Yeah.
There's a filed map where there was an empty lot behind it, and it was joined back in,
Yeah, I know where it is now. It's not, I mean, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I know too. No, I have it in the thing.
Yeah, this probably, the lot is this guy here.
So it's a very long, narrow lot.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
they're a lot,
Bowling alley,
substantial
It
lot.
is, for
like a
sure.
lot of Walkinger's lots.
It's a
Right.
very long and narrow lot.
I live on a-
But it's not shown to us. In other words, this is a surprise to me that she's that close. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous, which is appeal number 197689, commercial variance, Tarpon Towers LLC wireless telecommunications facility. It's my understanding that we are going to need a special meeting.
Yeah, so, as we discussed previously, and the board is aware, the Federal District Court issued a decision which required the town, collectively the ZBA and the planning board, to issue a decision within 60 days of January 31st, the date that the decision was issued. Subsequent to our last discussion, I had a conversation with the attorneys for Tarpon Towers. They had made a motion to request re-argument of the decision to try to get the judge to issue the approvals outright. Having said that, I had a discussion with them regarding some of the conditions that were suggested previously by this board, as well as the conditions of the planning board. And in order to avoid future litigation, it was proposed that the town and Tarpon Towers enter into a consent judgment to be filed with the court which would outline the conditions that the boards would impose. In essence, that would wrap up the litigation, and more importantly, it would provide protection for the town with respect to the seeker issue that was on the table. The planning board had issued a positive declaration, and after the issuance of that, Tarpon Towers went to federal court. Ordinarily, a positive declaration does begins a larger seeker process regarding scoping and the preparation of an environmental impact statement. But the court in its decision basically said that because of the shot clock under the Federal Telecommunications Act, that was an impermissible delay on the part of the town. And then the court issued an order directing the town to grant an approval within 60 days. In the conversation with the attorneys for Tarpon Towers, they pointed out a case called Lucas versus the Town of LaGrange Planning Board, which was a similar situation. But in that case, there was no court decision. The parties amongst themselves entered into a consent judgment to grant the approvals. And after the town entered into the consent judgment and then granted the approvals, neighbors have challenged the action, saying that the Town of LaGrange Planning Board had no authority to rescind the positive declaration, and it had an obligation to go forward in the seeker process. In that case, the court cited to some state court precedent and some federal court precedent, which said under the seeker regulations, anything that is ordered by a court or a government agency is considered to be a type 2 action under seeker and does not require seeker review. So what the Lucas versus Town of LaGrange Planning Board case in essence says is that the judge's decision in the federal court litigation ended the seeker process. And it now, in essence, reverts to a type 2 action for which no seeker review is required. Based on that, this board is now free to go forward and issue a determination with respect to the variances. In light of, originally we had a discussion about possibly doing it tonight, but because the public was not given notice of this meeting, we would like to schedule, the next planning board meeting is the 21st of March. So the planning board cannot act until the variance is granted. So we would like to, I would like to have the board schedule a special meeting to act simply on that determination.
Sure.
It would be a relatively short meeting, and whenever the board is available.
We were discussing possibly the 15th, which would be a week from tonight.
Okay.
The
We'd like
9th
to
of
do it.
March.
Is it?
Will there be public comment?
No,
What's that?
Why not?
public hearing is closed.
When was the public hearing?
Back in
Quite a while ago.
Last year or something.
last year sometime.
Okay, I never heard about it. Was it in the newspaper and anything?
Public hearing,
Hearing notice, it wasn't in the newspaper.
she doesn't live near it, she would
I
live
didn't
in,
hear it.
well, no, you have to be an abutting property owner, and then we went 100 feet, you're down
Right.
because of where you are in relationship.
I'm concerned about the radiation. from the
I understand that, but,
tower.
so just so you know, it was noticed on our website, it was noticed in the Southern Duchess News at the time,
As well as the Poughkeepsie.
and the Poughkeepsie Journal, and the neighbors that live within 100 feet were notified.
Okay, did they object?
Yes.
Yes, and there were a lot of people here.
Good, that's good to know.
And then, just for the record, with respect to the radiation issue, under the Federal Telecommunications Act, local municipalities cannot look at the issue of radiation.
That sounds incredibly strange.
It's the law.
That's the federal law.
Look at it.
That can't be,
Know about it?
well, they can know about it, but they can't use that, the adverse health effects from RF emissions
frequencies.
from the tower cannot be considered when they reach their determination.
Are you going to take into consideration the people who are against it?
At this point in time, they've been ordered by the federal court to grant an approval. Should they not grant an approval, we would wind up back in federal court, and the court would grant the approval without conditions.
So that is determined by a certain judge?
Yes,
Do we know this judge?
it's Judge,
Does the town benefit from this in any way monetarily?
No.
well, it's additional taxes.
Okay, that being said, yeah, okay. Well, this is the first time I ever heard of it, unfortunately. I'm very opposed to it for a lot of different reasons. One is that it's an eyesore. Saugerties got rid of their idea. The same company tried to build one in Saugerties 2 years ago, a 120-foot one, not a 150-foot one. I have an article here by a doctor who has researched this for 20 years, Harvard, whatever. He says anyone living within 1,500 feet is at risk for developing brain cancer, especially children. The thing about radiation from a phone is you put it down. Telecommunications towers, it's constant. So, yeah, I think this is a really huge problem. They're asking for a variance to get even closer to the homes. These people who are building this don't live here. They live in Florida. This company is owned in Florida. They don't care where they put it. If we as a people don't benefit from this in any way, we're putting children and the people who live here at risk, in addition to it being an incredible eyesore and not fitting in. It also is right close to the Veterans Hospital. Like, really? It sounds ridiculous, and it's ugly, it's bad, we don't need it. So I understand that we would have to go back to court and all that nonsense, but it's really worth it to fight it. Because, you know, children, we don't want brain cancer.
We did fight it and we lost.
So what else can we do? Is there
Nothing.
anything to be done?
No.
So why does this judge want it, do we know?
What's that?
Why does the judge want it?
It's under the Federal Telecommunications Act, so it's just following the law.
He's just following the law, ma'am.
The law is you have to say yes?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Would the town get behind not wanting it and fighting it?
Right.
We
but
did
I-
fight it.
but, Yeah, we did. I truly understand your concerns. I really do, and I appreciate you stepping
Yeah.
up. But we've really been through the whole public hearing
Okay,
process. with
I missed the whole
many,
thing.
many.
I think a lot of people don't know about it, even so it was in the papers and everything.
Right, it was.
But are you happy about this?
It was on social media also, very heavily. so
Okay, I
it's
missed
been-
the whole thing.
It's been, we're sorry you missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that it's going to be built. It's going to be ugly, and it's also causes cancer. Like, that sucks. That sucks. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah, so, all that being said, we again, as far as this appeal goes, you know, we as a board don't authorize you then to render a decision.
Write a
Correct.
decision on
That's
behalf of the board
correct.
for their
That's
consideration.
correct. Do we need a
Okay.
motion for that, Barbara?
Should.
All right, I'd like to make a motion then to have Jim render a decision, write a written decision for the board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And I guess also a motion to schedule a special meeting.
Yes, a motion, please, to schedule a special meeting on the 15th of March.
Time.
Yeah, I'll make a
At,
motion.
We'll make it 7 o'clock as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, and who else? Pete and Dave, okay.
Yep.
So I have a quick question from the legal point of view. So we'll put this in the paper,
You don't have to put it in the paper, you just have to contact the media. It's
Okay,
not a public hearing
so
notice.
B just has to email this to the Poughkeepsie Journal and the Southern Dutchess News?
Correct.
And they're not obligated
No,
to,
but
you know.
you'll take care of that, and we'll have an email
Right.
as proof, and then we'll put it on the website.
Right. Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure we cover all our bases for
Sure.
next week.
Okay. All right. So that's,
Gonna be 7 PM?
Yeah.
it'll be 7 PM on the 15th. Okay.
The decision, we'll receive that before the meeting? We'll be
Yes.
able to review that prior?
Yep.
Okay.
And what about, Jim, when will, some of the board members were asking about conditions.
So we
When-
could have that discussion right now. I
Okay.
mean,
So I think the condition we were discussing was maintaining the 750-foot agricultural zone around the tower.
yeah, and I had that discussion with the applicant, and it was Tarpon Towers, so they were gonna, have a discussion with the property owner, but they think it would, they're gonna try to sell it, so.
They're gonna
If they
what?
Sell it to the property owner.
So to the property
The
owner.
condition.
Right, and, again, it's, based on the condition, I mean, I think it's a reasonable condition, so. And I don't think the court would have an issue with it, even if,
I think it's a reasonable condition as long as it's to the property that the tower is sitting on.
correct.
I don't want to,
No, it's not gonna go off.
exactly, I don't want to tie anyone off on Carolyn Drive.
Right,
That
no,
might have a
it's
piece of
just-
property and
right.
wants to build a house or
Yeah,
something.
well, I don't think we'd be able to do that, those are,
Right, no.
yeah, that's a different,
Right.
I'm just saying, as long as it's the property that the
Yeah, no,
tower
it's-
actually
right.
sits on.
yeah.
Because some of these properties, are closer than the.
Yeah, it would be an oddly
That's the whole
shaped
point.
circle, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. And then,
And I think a good portion of that 750 is in, my proposal would be to prohibit any clearing within the 750-foot radius on the property, except for agricultural activities used in a best practice. So, they could, use, if they're gonna clear for, a pasture or something.
A
for
lot
the
of it
horses.
is pasture, so
Right.
mowing the hay
Yeah,
is
right,
fine.
Right, no, so.
But no development is what?
Correct.
That's
Basically,
correct.
yes.
Specifically housing, I would think, right?
that's correct.
Which I didn't realize, until looking at our code, we have, a provision where you can't locate a cell tower within 750 feet of an existing house, but there's no provision in our code that prohibits locating a house within 750 feet of an existing cell tower, which I think is interesting. But
It's
It's a little bit of an oversight.
Yeah, it's
We'll-
interesting.
We'll look
Have
at
to
that.
clean that up.
Clean that up when we do the
To clean
telecommunications.
that up.
So,
All right, well, if there's no more discussion on this
if
matter.
there's any other conditions, I had a discussion with the planning board, and the planning board, as far as the color of the tower, they wanted it to be a matte gray, not just straight galvanized steel.
Should we speak to that in anything we do? Should we say, color to be per planning board? Like,
Yeah,
do we have to say
that
anything
would be
like
in the condition.
Yeah.
So, you could, we could put it in, or, we could say matte gray, as proposed by the planning board, or, you could say you concur with that.
And I know they brought it up last night, and I'll bring it up again, the raising of the tower, once it's up to its height. They're allowed to go up, right? A little-
It's
Like
it's
15,
5%,
I think it comes out to 50.
it's like 10% up to 15
15 feet, because it's a 150-foot tower.
Right, so we can't stop them from going any higher.
That's, again, under the Telecommunications
Right,
Act.
okay.
But again, it's
Just, I'm just,
right, so.
We can't prohibit it, we condition it.
But I will tell you,
can't
we have
prohibit it
quite a
or
few
condition
cell
it.
towers in
No,
the
we can't.
town,
that's what
and none
I
of them
just
have
double checking.
have come in to raise
Right.
any of the towers.
Can they keep raising them?
No.
Okay.
No.
They have that
They have
one
one
time,
time.
but no one has come in, and we have towers that are 20 years old.
I think they can keep adding equipment to it.
Right, and
Yeah,
and that's actually one of the conditions in our code, is that it has to have provisions for co-location for, various carriers. And most of them do. I believe the tower behind the emergency services building right now has four antenna co-locators. Some of the other ones have had 2 or 3. And that's one of the other things in 2010, the amendments to the Telecommunications Act in 2010 made it easier for co-location of antennas on existing towers. And then there's been recently some proposed amendments from the FCC regarding 5G sites, which this is not one of them, but, you know, that's gonna be a whole nother kind of arena, most of which is beyond the control of zoning laws, because right now they're rolling most of it out within the municipal right-of-ways. Most of them are installed on telephone poles, you know, that are existing.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Right, got it.
Do they have a decommissioning plan in place? If they are going all 5G, it seems like at some point in the future, they could not be using this tower at all, correct?
Yeah,
Like what happens when, I mean, are they obligated to remove it if they're not using it for any equipment?
yeah, most of that's actually in the leasehold, because these are not property owners, so, at the expiration of the leases, typically require removal. I know the lease that we have for emergency services does. We don't have it in our code. It's one of the things that, you know, we're looking at putting in. But, you know, the other thing with these towers is that most of them probably will remain because of certain legacy communication systems. You know, the fire department has transmitters on these. You know, so anybody who uses RF, you know, radio frequency type stuff, and, you know, and then the microwave tower, you know, certain microwave frequencies will use it. But, you know, as you go to 5G, the thing with 5G is 5G transmits more data, but it has a much shorter range. And one of the other issues with 5G is it's very susceptible to interference by structures. So it doesn't penetrate into buildings as well as, you know, the earlier technologies. So everything, you know, I think there'll always be a balance, but, you know, again, with respect to, you know, the decommissioning plans, you know, you've got structural failures or, you know, wind events. Those are all, you know, we have that in our code regarding, you know, structural certifications, and they've provided all of those things. And there's wind loading and things like that that are standard that we look at. So, you know, the chances of a structural failure are pretty minimal. But, you know, you're right, as far as planned obsolescence goes.
Yeah, I would be more annoyed with, you know, upgrading everything to 5G and not using the tower, and then we just have an empty tower.
Yeah, you know, but one of the things that we've seen is that, you know, over the years, what's happened is the size of the antenna arrays have gotten smaller. So they do swap out the antennas for newer ones. And what winds up happening is they can, because of that, you know, they're actually able to co-locate more. But as you see, you know, T-Mobile absorbs Sprint, and so, you know, the various carriers are kind of gobbling one another up. So, you know, we're basically down, I guess, to maybe 3 or 4 major carriers, where in the past you had, you know, a whole lot of different competitors. So.
Got it. We do have one more item to discuss this evening, but we'd like to go into executive session to do that. So can I have a motion, please, to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to
Yes.
speak to the attorney about pending.
It's for legal advice.
Yeah, some legal advice.
I'll second.
So it's actually technically an attorney-client session.
Yes.
Attorney-client session. We could do that here, and unfortunately, we We have to ask you to leave for this one.
I'm leaving. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure, no worries.
Good night.
Good night, have a good night.
Thank you.